Mhm.
Bonanza, Bonanza, we're hanging out. It's the Brandon Bonanza show. Bonanza, Bonanza, we're hanging out on the Brandon Bonanza show. Hanging out on the Brandon Bonanza show. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Brandon Bonanza podcast. And right on cue, my mouse stopped working. Yep, it's the old I have an Apple, but I don't have an Apple mouse. And sometimes this happens. No big deal though. We're live, so it's fine. We're gonna wait for some more people to come in while I attempt to fix this issue with my mouse. Where's my little mouse? There it is. All right. So anyway, how's everyone doing tonight? No over Sharon show. Sharon and I got into a fight. Just kidding. We still are brother and sister on the Over Sharon show. We just Sharon is actually traveling. She went to go see her man, and I believe she's supposed to perform tonight, so she would not be able to make the chat. So we decided for me to do one of my shows, but never fear, because coming up, I do have a preview for next week's episode with the wonderful Woodshop the Wise. So if you stick around, I'll play a clip of that. And yeah, awesome. So I'm still trying to get my mouse work while I talk. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. I wonder if there's anybody in the chat. Let's see what we got. I'll get there. There it is. We got Robo Honky in the chat. What is up? Greetings, everybody. Peace and love. I think it's just me and you, Robo Honky. We won't tell anybody. What up? It's my favorite handle on YouTube is Robo Honky. Probably heard me say that a few times. I'm still trying to get my mouse to work here. It's so funny. There we go. It's working. All right. Well, it's quicker than I thought. Usually it takes a couple more reboots. All right. I guess I can get into my show. So, oops, I almost ended the meeting. How did I do that? Let me get today's quote and we will get into this, won't we? There we go. Share screen. Don't need the sound. You can hear my lovely voice. Here we go. Today's quote is from the Bhagavad Gita. This is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, the warrior, Arjuna is trying to get some guidance from Krishna, and he's talking to him. And one of the things he says is, when you let your mind follow the call of the senses, they carry away your better judgment as storms drive a boat off its charted course on the sea. Use all your power to free the senses from attachment and aversion alike, and live in the full wisdom of the self. Such a sage awakes to the light in the night of all creatures. That which the world calls day is the night of ignorance to the wise. The Bhagavad Gita. How do I stop sharing? Here we go. Okay. So basically what Krishna's talking about there is senses, and how people really try to pleasure their senses in life. And Krishna is giving Arjuna a little bit of advice here, and he's trying to tell him how to not be subject to that and actually be a master of your own mind. And I've talked about the Bhagavad Gita before. Go back in the Brandon Bonanza playlist, and I did an episode with my friend Sarcastic Warlock about a year and a half ago now. So check that out. It was really good one. And I actually invited him on the show, so we should have him coming on the show soon. So I'm excited about that. I also spoke with my good friend Davin. He'll be coming on the show, the Brandon Bonanza show again. In the Over Sharon show, we have Woodshop the Wise coming up. And Michelle for Michelle's Home Healing. We already have those recorded and ready to go next 2 weeks, next 2 Thursdays. Check us out here on the Brandon Bonanza YouTube channel, 8:33 p.m. And we'll have those lovely Oh, Cody, what's up? He's back. Woohoo! What's going on? We'll have those lovely episodes ready for you. I hope I'm not advertising. This is actually, out of all the coconut waters that I've had, this is like the best. This is really good stuff. It was a little more pricey, but I guess that's sometimes you gotta get what you pay for, right? That's good stuff. And I think, yeah, it's just coconut water. They don't add anything to it. Lovely. You might add AIDS. I mean, who knows, right? It's like in really small script. AIDS might be added to your coconut water. All right, what are we going to talk about today? Oh, you know what? Let's pull a card first, and I have my. Let's see if I can try the box. Doop doop boop boop. There we go. Lord of the Rings. I guess this is another advertisement, but if you would like one of these decks, let me know because they were on Amazon for like $7, but it's not Prime, so you got to pay for shipping. But whatever, $11 for this really cool tarot deck. It's not a bad deal. I don't get any of that. I used to have an Amazon link where you can go through and buy stuff through my link and I'd get money, but they shut me down. So I don't know what happened. Who knows? They're weird. Here's the card right here. I can see it already. I'm going to show you guys with me. Ooh, look at that. Wow. All right. There's a card for you. I think this is the, oh no, Death. Okay. I thought it was the Tower. The Tower is the Tower of Barad-dûr. This is Mount Doom. Death. Look at that. It's like a serpent's mouth at the top. Isn't that crazy? Card number 13 of the Major Arcana, Death. It's one of the most misunderstood cards in the tarot. I'd have to say maybe Death and the Devil. Devil's pretty misunderstood in the Tower. No, I think most people get what the Tower's about. Yeah, so let me see if, oh yeah, look, how did I know? The Devil. There we go. Might as well, we're talking about it. We'll talk about misunderstood cards. And this, I believe, is the Witch King of Agamah. The Ring Wraith, the head guy, the Witch King. And if you've ever read like the Silmarillion and the Unfinished Tales and the appendices of Lord of the Rings, where they talk about all the kings of the Sea Kings and stuff, and how like Aragorn, his whole line, Aragorn, it's amazing. All right, so wait, what's this? Oh, is Woodshop's the Wise is in here? My people, they said, hey, could you stop pulling death cards 3 seconds after I enter? Yeah, then I pulled the Devil for you, so do with that what you will. I thought I popped the chat out. Oh, there it is. All right. Let me get it. Now that my mouse is working, I'm excited. I'm gonna get it situated so I can see my chat, see my peeps. Yeah, so the death card, highly misunderstood. Really, when you think about death, and you're talking about esoterically anyway, really what it means is just an end of a cycle. So, the death every day, the day dies. Like Jim Morrison said on Break On Through to the Other Side, the day destroys the night, night destroys the day. Night defies the day. That's Jim Morrison, everybody. But anyway, so it's a death. It's a end of a cycle. So yes, it could represent a physical death of a human being, but it also esoterically represents the end of a cycle. And it could represent a death where you have like an ego death or a death of a way you used to feel. Like sometimes you're really into like sports and you're like, I gotta know. And then you find out that it's all fixed. And then you're like, damn it. So it's kind of like that. And you still try to stay into it. And then you just go to the store and sell all your Giants memorabilia and your Phil Simms jersey or your Joe Montana. I don't know. I haven't watched football in years. But yeah, so that's really what it's about. And the Devil card is really about like what we talk about at the Over Sharon show, slavery. And really what we mean is just mental slavery, or you're a slave of your own mind, right? It's like going back to that opening quote where I was talking about the Bhagavad Gita and the 5 senses, how they can pull your mind off its course like a wind, knocking a ship off its course on the sea kind of thing. Trying to stay in and then bailing. Got it. Exactly. You get it. So anyway, the Devil card is more about and we talk about this a lot. It's more about being a slave, right, to your desires. And then you have this excuse because you're a victim. And if you look in the Rider Waite, there's the two figures that kind of look like Adam and Eve, like a male, female. And one of them's kind of like gesturing back, and you see this giant devil on a perch. And he's like, what am I going to do? I'm a crack addict. I got to keep smoking crack. I can't stop. The crack's got me. So yeah, actually, I'm going to do some jokes for you guys. And that's, I was hanging out because I'm a wedding DJ. That's what I do at night, the weekends, to support myself. And I was walking outside. I think I had another guy with me. That's right, another guy with me. So I was able to go outside and take a break for a minute. And I had one of my trusted little tobacco. For those of you who don't know, you see me smoking on the Over Sharon show. Most times it's just tobacco that I get, organic tobacco, and I cut it up. Sometimes allegedly it might be laced with a little bit of devil's lettuce. But yeah, anyway, so I walked outside and the wedding planner was out there with her assistant, and there was a couple wedding guests that were just absolutely hammered and they were smoking. So I was like, oh, you mind if I join you? And I go, I roll my own. Everyone always thinks it's weed. So they started talking about weed. And the wedding planner's like, oh, my boyfriend grows his own weed. And someone else was like, yeah, something about growing your own weed. And I'm like, oh, I have a friend that grows his own crack. Oh, thank you. And laughter ensued. It was great. Drunk people are the best. How dare you, Quentin Farrell? Yeah, we'll talk about that later. I got the allegedly hat. It is what it is, and it means what it means. Everyone now has different. I've been telling you guys, like I've been into Owen Benjamin since he was on the Part of the Problem show, and I've always like watched him for a while and then just got like, well, all right, I gotta stop for a while. And then I stop, and then I start again, then I stop. So, I'm a comedian. In the way that I view him as another comedian, he is way more successful and everything. But I'm in that like old school. I don't know. We'll talk about that later. So I don't really, I don't know. I'll just say it this way. Back in 1996, I recall there was this rapper. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. His name was Tupac, and there was this other rapper named the Notorious B.I.G. And all of a sudden they ostensibly hated each other, and you were supposed to pick one side, and I didn't, and I listened to both, and I would play my Biggie and my Tupac and confuse everybody. So that's all I got to say about that. Anyway, yeah, did I lose what I was talking about? Come on, baby. I have this Steve Miller Band song stuck in my head. I'm so excited about it. I got some records recently. My woman has a record player, so we've been going out to places and getting cheap records, and I got the Steve Miller record, and I forgot about Swingtown. And now thinking about the title, you have a very, pause that really quick. From the chat, Cody Bassett said, do you have a very Forrest Gump after running 3 years straight look going to, or tonight? Thank you. That's how I feel. Shit. It happens, man. Brandon acted like he wasn't a diehard Backstreet Boy. Oh man, I always hated mainstream music. And that's the funniest thing now that I'm a DJ, because mostly I play mainstream stuff. And I didn't become a DJ till I was like 33. Illuminati confirmed I was 32. It was the year 2008, and it was all a dream. I got laid off. I was working in the car business. I was a car salesman. I was a sales manager, a finance manager. I was like the youngest manager in this, and I was running this tiny little car lot with a bunch of guys, and I was the youngest one. It was so crazy. And then a couple guys left, and a couple of other guys that were working there that were Boricua. They were Puerto Rican. They brought a bunch of their friends, and they were all like ex-drug dealers. It was hilarious. What's up, NB Austin? Is life like a box of chocolates? Well, funny you say that, because I don't know. I couldn't think of anything funny to say. But back to that car lot, it was amazing because I live near this town, 2 towns over, called Bridgeport, Connecticut. And it's so great. It's such a crazy town that even Family Guy made fun of it. So I should look up that Yeah, that's it. Quentin Farrell, come on and dance. Come on, baby, let's dance. I keep like jumping around on topics. But that is the song, the Steve Miller Band song. I'll get back to that. So anyway, there I was in the car business, right? And I was running this shop, and it was all these ex-gangsters. It was so funny. And we had this one guy that was a retired Bridgeport cop, Italian guy, and he was legitimately crazy. Like, he was a really cool guy, but if he started to get a little angry or frustrated, he would just like lose his shit. And I'm like, this guy was a cop for like 20 years. They used to probably beat the shit out of people. It was amazing. So he had people who, because this one guy's name was Frankie. We don't stay anymore. Actually, I could even tell you guys a really great story that I'm probably going to work into a story on stage. But so this guy, Frankie, I would tell stories, and these guys didn't really brag. It's not like they were, I don't think they were lying and just making this stuff up. Like they had scars. Like this one dude had fucking like he had like bullet holes in his arm and shit. And he's like, I used to just, this other guy, Frankie's like, oh yeah, I just used to walk up and down the street with a bulletproof vest and an AK-47. He was like, I would just like guard that spot or whatever. And I guess the cops just left him alone. And then, so he would tell his stories. And then we had this other guy, Joe. I want to say his last name because it's so funny. He's probably dead by now. That was like Joe Procaccini. It sounds like I made it up, right? We're like, hey, can I get a Procaccini? But anyway, he was like I said, he was the one who was the police officer who was retired. He's probably like in his 50s or 60s at the time. But so he would tell his stories and the crazy stuff that the cops used to do. It was so amazing. I probably should have got them to go together to write a book because Bridgeport got really crazy. I mean, a lot of areas that had ghettos were really crazy in the late 80s and 90s because of crack and all that stuff. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. And like I said earlier, my friend used to grow crack, so he knows all about it. But anywho, so I've never that was my car business story. The other one was at that same place. It was a Daewoo dealership. Do you guys remember Daewoos? I used to sell Daewoos. Anybody could see people feel bad about the things they used to do in their life. They're like, oh, I was a womanizer, I was a heroin addict. Guys, I used to sell Daewoos to people, and I would look them straight in the face and be like, these are great cars. I once heard the finance manager that we had, Sal, his name was, and he was an Italian guy as well. Big fat Italian guy, really cool guy though. And he was from Tampa, Florida. The guy was crazy. And we did a lot of people with bad credit. We did like special finance, they called it. So people would just come in and we would just check their credit and see what we could do for them. So we had these people drive a car. We got them approved. We drove a car. They're like, all right, we like it. So yeah, Daewoo, exactly. People would come and they would call it Daywood. I don't know why. They'd be like, is this Daywood? I'm like, I don't see a fucking D. I think that's when I first started seeing that people just, like normies, I don't know. Because everyone would do it, Daywood. I'm like, where's the D? I never even. So anyway, Sal Sonardi sitting back in his finance office. So we get these customers in there. And he goes over, he's like, this is that, and here's your monthly payment. And the guy was like, looked at it and he's like, wow, that's kind of high. He's like, if I take that loan, I don't know if I'll be able to pay my rent. So Sal Sonardi looks at him right in the eye and goes, well, you could live in your car, but you can't drive your house. And the guy's like, all right. And he's fucking, and he signed it. We once got in trouble with one of the banks because we had so many repos. It was crazy. But anyway, at least the people got a car for a couple months. I mean, it was fun. And I honestly thought they were good cars at first. Like, we didn't know right away. They weren't actually terrible. It's just that after they went out of business in the US, you couldn't really get the parts, and then GM bought it. It was a mess. But anyway, that's my Daewoo story. So one more story about Daewoo Milford. You guys will like this. I was working with this other guy, Tony Gomez, and this is before I was a manager. I was just a salesman there. And there was maybe 4 or 5 salesmen. It was kind of a small place. And the guy that ran it, Joe Felix, he's another story. But this little Daewoo dealership was owned by a bigger group. They had like a Buick and GMC and like Ford, another Ford place, like a Saab place. Ugh, I never sold Saabs. At least I would have fucking killed myself, guys. If you ever sold Saabs, there's no coming back. You don't get all this stuff we talk about tarot and spirituality, not judging people. If you ever sold Saabs, fuck you. Anyway, yeah, at least they got a car for a couple months. Dude, you don't understand. These people are fucking loving it. We had this one guy come in, and he was a white guy too. So I like, look, see, it's not even that I'm racist. This white guy, he looked like he crawled out of the fucking woods sewer or something, right? He looked like me, but like if I didn't brush my hair, he was just like, hey, can I get a car? And we're like, all right, cool. So we just ask him about, their income and stuff. And he's like, oh, I don't have a job. And we're like, you don't have a job? We can't get you a loan. He's like, it says no job needed. I'm like, where does it say? Whoever said no job needed? Like, what? Anyway, it was hilarious. But going back to Tony Gomez, so I'm a salesman there. And we get this guy who worked at a BMW dealership. He's from Colombia. And I think I was like in my mid 20s. And he was probably like 32. Short little Colombian guy, fast talker, really funny. He could tell stories, and he would always talk about his cousin who was like into the drugs. This is all allegedly, guys. This is a comedy podcast, by the way. You can't get me for nothing. And one day he was like, oh, come here. I want to, come in the back. I got to show you something in my car. So it's a really hot day. I remember it very well. Hot day. Windows are rolled down. He has a Jeep Cherokee Sport, one of those boxy ones. We sit in it. And he goes, it smells like paint in here, doesn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it does smell like paint in here, like house paint. He reaches behind the seat, grabs a bag and goes, it smells like paint when you have a lot of cocaine. And he pulls out a kilo of cocaine. And I've never even done cocaine. And it's not like, listen, I grew up, Sharon and I have a joke where, she says she grew up under a rock. And I say I grew up under a crack rock. That's the third crack rock reference. Does that mean I have to smoke now? I just summoned crack. So I had a fairly, like, my parents were into partying, and we'll just leave it at that. They were always responsible, but my cousins, because my dad was the second youngest of 8, my cousins were like his same age, some of them are just a little younger. So, and it was the 70s, and they got down. So anyway, but I never partook, just I think because of what I saw growing up. I like smoked weed and stuff, but I never got into the old nose candy. But if you did, that's fine. I mean, I would drink coffee and I would just be like, so I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea for me, guys. I have plenty of energy. So anyway, I'm sitting in this car and he just pulls out a fucking kilo of cocaine and he's like, oh yeah, I got this from my cousin, something. I don't know the fucking story, man. I was just like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? You just implicated me in a felony by sitting here. No one's ever going to believe that you called me in here to just like brag or show off or something. Because he knew, we talked before, because I told him how my brother allegedly, used to sell a lot of weed and stuff. And, I told him I was never into coke because I knew he was from Colombia. This is like, this is just giving you a little backstory. It's not like he was taking me out there to do a bump or something. He's just out there to brag, I guess. Maybe it's because I'm a giant. I'm like 6'5". I think I was 6'4" back then. And he's just a little guy. He's just like, I gotta mesmerize him. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Seriously, like, we're near a main road, Route 1 in Milford. If a car drove by, say like a K9 unit drove by, that thing is gonna go crazy with the windows down in the summer. So that's the story of how I saw a kilo of cocaine. And he also had a bag full of these. They were like these round, basically people put heroin in them to swallow them and shit them out again. And he had a fucking bag full of them. And there was like, he's like, anyone that could get rid of this? I'm like, no. Like, you're either the worst undercover cop ever, or you're just like, I don't know, the worst bragger ever. He's probably in jail now. I don't think but he wasn't really into that stuff because he sold so many cars. Like, the dude, I guess maybe he was into it a little bit. I don't know. But that's my amazing cocaine story. I'm probably one of the only people that's ever existed besides a cop who's seen a kilo of cocaine but never done cocaine. I've seen it like out in the wild, not like, like I saw a kilo out in the wild. And I've never done it yet. David was trying to get Goliath caught with coke. Exactly. He needed to move it. He was letting you know. Yeah, he was definitely letting me know, and everybody that was around him. So I guess I could take off the allegedly hat now. So those are just some of the fun stories in my life. But getting back to the original story, because I can hold my point, because I'm a goddamn professional. I was talking about music and DJing, and before what I did before I started DJing was I was in the car business, and then I started working in the service department, which I didn't realize that service advisors can make money, really good money. And I made like 80 grand in 1 year. And they were just like, they laid me off. They were trying to like change my pay scale and like, oh, because business slowed down. It was crazy. Anyway, I just was like, I'll take my pink slip. I know the deal. And I collected for 2 years. Thank you, Barack Obama. I collected unemployment, like $500 a week of your goddamn money out there. That's right. I just look at it as the tax money I paid to them. I got it back. I wouldn't do that now. Like I refused all the COVID money. They tried, they're sending me letters, and I'm like, my friend who's an accountant, a guy I know, it's like one of my probably millionaire friends. He's also a DJ, but his dad owns this giant accounting firm, and he also works for Aflac, and he also has a business where he details boats and then shrink wraps them. This dude is a fucking animal. Like talk about, type A personality. It's crazy. The dude's just like always doing something, but it's cool because he always has random jobs for me if I need them. So anyway, that's my friend RJ. Yeah, so I took my pink slip, collected for 2 years, and that's when I started to DJ. And I was always into music my whole life, and I never really liked mainstream stuff. But luckily for me, I grew up in the 80s and 90s when a lot of the mainstream stuff, well, at least in the 90s, was actually good. Not that I listen to it that much anymore, but you know what I'm saying. It's kind of like the 60s and 70s where the mainstream stuff was like good, not like today, allegedly. So that's why I like Aflac. Exactly. That's why I like, I'm just responding to the chat, everybody. That's why I like to DJ weddings, because I get to play a lot of this old music and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So my woman got a record player, had one. We hooked it up, and we started getting these records, and I found all these songs like this Fleetwood Mac song that I forgot. Say You Love Me, and you say that you love me. And I mean, people like boomers are fucking losing their minds. They're like dancing during dinner. I'm like, relax, boomers. It's great. It's great to see them come back, because let me tell you, last year and the year before, the people who I usually depended on to always dance at weddings, the old people, they were, especially last year, I don't know why, but they were like wiped out. What kind of 90s mainstream stuff? I'll get to that. NB Austin, Nicholas B. Wait, it's Nick, right? Sorry, I'm live. So did I actually just lose my train of thought? I've been working. Yes, the old people. Last year, man, they were like pooped or like not even getting up. And let me tell you something. If you guys like my show and think I'm funny, you should see me at the fucking DJ thing. Like, I know how to make people dance. It's such a crazy skill to have. But I learned from this guy, and I picked up everything really well. He taught me kind of like I was in the Marine Corps. I tell you guys that all the time, but he taught me kind of like a drill instructor, not drill sergeants in the Marines. I should know that. I was in the Marines. All right. Actually, I have my honorable discharge right there. Yes, I was honorably discharged. Can you believe it? I guess 90s mainstream stuff. I'm talking about again, it's not stuff I still listen to all the time, but like some of the fun hip hop or some of the like Nirvana, because everyone's like, yeah, Nirvana, but like, listen, just imagine you've never heard of Nirvana before, and then all of a sudden you heard them. Like, I'm telling you, like Baywatch too, man. Baywatch. Quentin said, yeah, the 90s was just watered down 70s, I think. Yeah. It's kind of funny how that stuff works, especially with music. I mean, so this is the thing. Like, I went out and got some records. I got a Louis Armstrong record. I got a Tchaikovsky record. We got a Beethoven record. Pink Floyd. I got a White Zombie album and a Tribe Called Quest album. Thank you very much. So yeah, stuff like that. A lot of the rock in the 90s, I think, was pretty good too. Again, that back then I didn't listen to it, of course, because there was stuff like White Zombie and Sepultura and Pantera and Primus, like of course I didn't listen to fucking Hoobastank. I don't think that was the 90s. Of course I didn't listen to fucking Bare Naked Ladies, but now going back and listening to it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool, chill music. But back then I was like, no, fuck you, I gotta kill somebody, like listening to Pantera. I mean, I was in the Marines, guys, Slayer, old Metallica, Megadeth, stuff like that. I'm trying to think of let me think of a fun one. That Prong, Helmet. Come on, man, what you know about me? Anyway, what about Green Jelly with Three Little Pigs? It was Green Jello originally. Okay, I'm done. So that's the fun part of have I been going for like, how long have I been going for already? Let's see what the chat's up to too. Ooh, we got 9 people in here. I feel special. Bare Naked Ladies is great. Yeah, it's good, but like not in the 90s. This could be a bit for me. Like Bare Naked Ladies and like what's the other one? It's all the same kind of, you guys get it, right? Like what is the name of that group? I keep wanting to say Dave Matthews, but that's not who I mean. But anyway, stuff like that, you can listen to it now and it's really good. But in the 90s, the shit there was so much stuff, in my opinion, that was better. And then also I was really into hip hop, but I was like into, and that's a good, so here's a good example of mainstream stuff. Like Biggie and Tupac was technically mainstream, but those were really good. Like Bone, I was listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony. You guys remember them? I said Tribe Called Quest already. Outkast, Throw Your Hands in the Air. Master P. I know everyone makes fun of him, but he had some of those songs, man. Like the Make Crack Like That song. I think that I should have titled this episode something about crack. But that Make Crack song, Make Crack Like This, it's from the Make Cash Like This. It's the Eric B and Rakim beat, I think it is, right? Make. I can't remember, man. That was like so long ago. But yeah, like Eric B and Rakim, the song from Juice, Know the Ledge. Come on, that song. Why would I listen to Hootie and the Blowfish when I could be listening to that? Yeah, funny story. Hootie and the Blowfish is from Myrtle Beach. And my cousin, I don't know, I can't remember if she knew them. You guys want to hear a really crazy story? Speaking about her name is Brandy, my cousin Brandy. This is why I've always had this feeling that, and we'll get into this about Realm Earth, don't worry. But this is how I've always had a feeling that things weren't exactly what they said, right? Just crazy stuff that happened to me. So it's not about Hootie and Blowfish, but my cousin Brandy, who lived in Myrtle Beach, knew who they were, like saw them all the time before they were like big. She was into that scene. I don't think Hootie, but like going out and going to see bands. But anyway, her name is Brandy. She's my cousin. So she is my grandfather's sister. Yep, my grandfather's sister, which is my great aunt Pat. She moved to Myrtle Beach. And my family kind of lost contact with them because my mom is not technically, but my mom was adopted. So it wasn't really her dad. But my aunt was always really cool. But she just moved to Myrtle Beach and there wasn't Facebook. You know what I mean? There wasn't like texting. There was just hello, so people lose contact. You guys know, how they call the moon from that phone that like you gotta, how they say dial 1-800. Well, they didn't mean push buttons. They meant like click, 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 click. So people lose touch, right? And what had happened was she had a couple daughters that were my mom's age. And one of those daughters had a daughter in 1974 on July 2nd and named her Brandy. 2 years later, in 1976 on July 2nd, I was born and I was named Brandon. And they didn't find that out until like they got contact again, like in the 80s or something. My aunt somehow got a hold of my mom or whatever. So we started going down to Myrtle Beach. How fucking crazy is that? Brandy and Brando, exactly 2 years apart. I can't believe I forgot about that. That's nuts. I gotta write this stuff down because another thing with twos, when I was talking about DJing, my friend Dwayne, Dwayne. That's how his dad says his name because he's from Barbados. Dwayne. Anyway, my friend Dwayne, he's the one who owns the DJ company I work for, and he's actually the one who trained me how to DJ. And I am exactly 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days older than him. So put that in your fucking pipe, in your crack pipe, and smoke it. Crazy. Brandy and Brando, interesting. We bought a recording of the show, and I burned a copy and stored the original. Nice. Oh, Blues Travelers. Ah, that's cool. I got to see Blues Travelers. This is Robo Honky. I got to see Blues Travelers in a small venue of less than 200 people. It was awesome. I won tickets off the radio and took my wife. That's cool. And then he said, we bought a recording of the show and burned a copy. Nice. Yes, Hootie is the band that's fronted by Darius Rutger. Darius Rutger. Yes, I know because everybody asked for that song Wagon Wheel. And I like to play the Old Crow Medicine Show version because, I'm cool. No, I'll play it. But if they don't specifically ask, sometimes I'll play the Old Crow Medicine Show version because it's more like crony. And I can sing it better. Not that I sing at weddings, but I'm not the wedding singer. Don't get excited. Yeah, so what was I talking about? I can't remember. Let's dance. Oh yeah, Darius Rucker. That's what I was gonna say, Robo Honky. I went to see Megadeth in New Haven Coliseum in 1993, I think it was. And they had this band opening up for him. It was this obscure little band called Stone Temple Pilots that everybody was fucking booing and throwing chairs at him and telling him to get off stage because they wanted to see Megadeth, except for my friend, because he was one of the hip kids and he had listened to Stone Temple Pilots and knew who they were. And he was going crazy. He loved it. But everyone else was like, boo, we want to fucking hear Dave Mustaine talk about how much he hates the government. And then we're going to go back to work tomorrow morning because it was like a Tuesday or some shit or Wednesday. Great show, by the way, though. I was enthralled. All right. So what are we here to talk about? What else are we here to talk about? Those are just some fun stories. See the entertainment that I bring to you guys, the stories of my life. I have so many crazy stories. You wouldn't even, I probably told you guys this before, but when I was in Italy and when I was in the Marines, I ran into somebody that was like best friends with my uncle, just like bumped into him in fucking Italy. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I did take some notes, so let's see. Ooh, it's 9/11, everybody. You know what that means. Make a wish. Anywho, yeah, so I'm into the old music, so I'm excited because we had a record player and I rediscovered some songs, so it was good stuff. I have a couple jokes here that I wanted to run by you guys. Let me know what you think. So these are more like premises because I haven't really worked it out yet, but I see other comedians just working out premises online with thousands of fans, so why can't I do it with 9? Anyway, one of them is about homeschooling because I was talking to my brother about his kids, and I don't have any kids, so of course it's easy for me to say this, but I was talking about homeschooling to him, and I'm like, you want to be there for your kids' first steps, right? Like everybody wants to be there when their kid takes their first steps. When they say their first words, they want to be there. When they're don't you want to be there? I should probably pick a third one. And then I'm like, don't you want to be there when they learn how to read? Don't you want to be there when they learn how to do math and add? I don't have any kids, but I could just imagine what it's like, how proud you would be, and especially there if you're there and you're teaching them or you're watching it at least. And don't you want to be there when they learn how to fuck? Like, especially if you have daughters, like, don't you want to be there when they learn how to have sex? Like, don't you think you should be there for that? There's probably a punchline there somewhere. That could be the punchline. I don't know, but it's like, I probably could act that out really well too. Cause I'm like, don't you want to be there, man? Don't you want to be there when they learn how to read and learn how to add and when they learn how to fuck? Like, don't you want to be there? I don't have a daughter, but if I did, I think I'd want to be there. Not some other old guy, Anyway, so that's one of them. Let me see. I have a couple more for you guys. All right, so you know how you see TV these days, and well, I don't fucking watch TV, but I even see billboards on the road, and it's like, were you a Marine at Camp Lejeune? Did you used to take Advil, or I don't know, did you used to take fucking the midnight or the morning after pill, or did you used to take Prozac, or did we'll get a lawsuit for you. You have money owed. Well, I could see in a few years, maybe even sooner, the commercials are going to be like, were you alive in 2020? Were you alive then? Well, guess what? Some motherfucker owes you money. Call us. We will find out who it is. No matter who you are, what you thought about 2020, somebody owes you some fucking restitution. I think because I want to try to make stuff for a wide audience, like, yeah, I could do jokes for you guys that you would get and inside things, and even about like certain medical experiments, right? And I want to learn how to dance the line with that, but I don't want to ostracize people, and I don't want to create more division, because I've done that before. That's kind of why I faded away from comedy when I was doing it, because the jokes I was doing were like, I had this joke that was like something about the war in Afghanistan, because when it was like 2018 or 19, I'm like, the war in Afghanistan is 18 years old right now. I'm like, you could fuck the war in Afghanistan legally. Fuck the war in Afghanistan. And I'd just be like, fuck it. I'm like, it's 18 now. Yeah, I said that with a microphone in front of people in real life. Yeah, you maybe do. Yeah, exactly, Robo Honky. Let's see. Phrasing. Yeah, it's all about the phrasing. That's what open mics are for and stuff. I'm just kind of running these by you because you guys are cool. You don't tell anybody though. I see. Did you survive a government psyop? You maybe do compensation, but I want to make it to like a why, like so like normies could even laugh, because everybody like went through some shit in 2020. You know what I mean? Like, somebody owes you money. Oh, that's the other part I was gonna say, is like somebody like, like they know what they did. They know what they did. They're gonna pay you. They know it. That's about the 2020 joke, everybody. So I'm gonna be like, did you survive through 2020? Somebody owes you money. Who? They know who. Don't worry, they know who they are. They know they got the money already put aside to pay you. That's how these things work. They already got the money put aside. Just go get it. So those are my jokes. I got a couple more. Hang on. I'm conflicted about this last one. You know what? After this, I'll play the clip, because I said this joke in the episode that's coming up, and I don't want to give it away because it's kind of funny, but I did put it in the preview, so maybe I'll play the preview. I think you guys will like that joke. I have this other joke. I'm not quite sure what to do with it, but my friend had an uncle growing up, and his name was Uncle Dick. And I was like, you can get away with Uncle Dick in the 80s, but like, you can't be Uncle Dick in 2023. You can't be Uncle Dick. You go to jail just for that name. It said that pride cometh before the fall, but the actual line in the Bible says pride cometh before the destruction. So I think that, doesn't that mean that gay pride is gay? And then if somebody gets offended, I'll be like, why are you getting offended though? If you don't think there's anything wrong with being gay, I'm just saying, if you think gay is the best thing, I just said gay pride is gay, then isn't that good? Gay pride is gay. It's a word spell. All right. I think those are my jokes. You know what? I'll just tell you guys. You could see it again and oversharing and laugh, because I probably won't get that to that preview, because I'm going to play the preview at Woodshop, especially because he's here. We'll embarrass him. And that where I said this joke. So I'll just put it in this reference. Our guest was talking about this concept called German New Medicine. And I'm not sure if you've ever heard of German New Medicine, but what it has to do with is their line of thinking is they feel like blind spots and past traumas and things in your emotional and stress and stuff like that is what causes sickness. So they go to those causes. And I was like, oh, that's great. German New Medicine, way better than German Old Medicine, where they just blame the Jews and then killed them all and then got better. Something like that. That's my German new medicine joke. Way better than the German old medicine. You know what I'm talking about. No Jewish doctors in that fucking line of work. Am I right? No Jew doctors in that line of work. Can I say that on YouTube? Guys, it's a comedy show. I'm only making fun of them because I love them. I make fun of white people the most because I know white people the most. I am a white people. All right, so I guess now I could talk about, well, let's go to the chat and then I'll get into what I'm going to talk about next. Did you kick someone out of the store for not wearing a mask? Don't let them escape. You're entitled to compensation. Exactly, NB Austin. I was kicked out, dude. Zeralath, you guys know Zeralath from the chat and stuff, and he's been on the show. Zeralath and I, because he lives in Connecticut, we're together with our friend Joe, who lives in Connecticut also, but I met him in Philadelphia at a Mark Passio event. And my friend Joe was on his way to moving to California, and he went to this event, and I was down there, and we met, and we became friends and talked online. Then he moved back because his roommates in California, who he was in a band with, they all moved out there together, but they wanted to kick him out so they moved out there in 2019, but in 2021 he had to move back, or 2022, because he wouldn't, he wouldn't do, guys. I don't have to say it. But anyway, he was like, I ain't doing that. And they're like, you can't live here anymore. And he's like, all right, cool, I'll move back to Connecticut. And he moved back, and I got him a job, actually. So it's a happy story. So I get to see him now. Anyway, Zeralath and Joe. And Joe's this really pretty big dude. He's probably 6 foot, kind of big dude. And and we all have like long hair and beards, and Zeralath is like, he just looks like fucking Gimli from Lord of the Rings, like, but taller, and he's gonna kill you. And we walk into this place. It's like a head shop, like a hippie, like they have like t-shirts and skate stuff, but then they also have like bongs, I guess, or whatever, upstairs and all this stuff. It's a pretty big place. So we walk, and it's been there for like ever. It's like one of these stores that's been there forever. So we walk in, and they're like, you need a mask. And this was last year. Yeah, this is 2020, 2022, maybe late 2021, winter 2022. We walk in there, and it was 2021, and they're like, you need a mask. And I'm like, what? And I went through the whole discrimination thing, and they're like, well, I have to call the cops. I'm like, why would I spend money here? I just left. I'm like, but seriously, guys, you guys are retarded. Yes, shout out to Zeralath for helping me believe in magic again. Shout out to Zeralath for making me believe in Vikings, or in Thorn Odin again. What's up, little Lomain? Hello. Who's little Lomain? Is that Cody? Just kidding. I know Cody's a different one. What's up, G Laro? Thank you. Hilarious, sir. Thank you. I try. That's where my brain goes. I've been listening to a lot of Mitch Hedberg lately. Not a lot, just like clips here and there. And I love how clean his jokes were. And I really want to kind of clean up and make my stuff really simple like that, because I've always made those kinds of observations like he's made, but his are just a little sillier, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, a wall of mods. Yes, we have a wall of mods here. We just give out wrenches like they're candy. It's cool though, because then I don't have to pay attention, and everyone in here is trusted. Listen, if you've been watching this show for this long, the Over Sharon show and the Brandon Bonanza show, we're not worried about you. It's like, if you watch one show, you might freak out, but if you keep coming back, then we're not too worried. Sometimes, I mean, there's been exceptions, but whatever. There's been crazy things that have been happening, right, everybody? How crazy? Think back to a time. You guys remember 2019 and 2018? Yes, I throw wrenches just like in dodgeball. Thank you, Nick. Woodshop the Wise. You guys remember when like we were the crazy ones, and we were like, hey guys, the government's doing all this stuff, and all this stuff's going to happen. Isn't it crazy now that we're in the era of it's all happening now? I mean, it's obviously it's always been happening, but right now it just seems like it's ramping up. But I mean, I don't pay attention to anything, so I have no idea what's going on. But I'm just talking about like after 2020. It's we're living like a totally different world. But anywho, speaking of living in a different world, let's talk about Realm Earth. Yeah, Realm Earth. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about because people it when you talk about Realm Earth, it's just like I used to view hippies when I would hear them say like, "Oh man, we're all one," and like you hear new agey people, and I would just be like, "Yeah, okay, cool, dude," but I wouldn't hate the guy. I'd just be like, "Yeah, he's just a little crazy." So I feel like when I talk about, I mean, not with you guys, if you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge this Mount Doom death card. Good luck. I already put it away. What was I talking about? Good job. You just derailed the whole show, which otherwise, no, don't worry. I remember what I was talking about. So much different when you're on a solo live stream because when you're recording with other people, that's why I love doing the Oversharing show because I could just take breaks and I could like sit back and drink and it's not a big deal. Not like it matters. You guys love me. So I feel like when I talk about Realm Earth anyway, that's what I was talking about to people. They don't really like when you talk to, if you're talking to like a normie, we'll say, right? And I'm a professional derailer. Yeah, trust me, I get it. What can I look at? I guess I'll look at myself. This is so weird. I'm gonna look at the chat too. But when I'm talking to normie or whatever, and you're talking to people who, because I get to deal with a lot of people, the public and stuff, and whenever these topics come up, so if you start talking to them about flat Earth, they're gonna hey, what's up, Zeralath? Speak in how do you say I talk summon the devil or speak of the devil and they arrive. There you go. You're the devil, Zeralath. I'm gonna text paraplegic, see where he is. Tell him we're live. But yeah, so if I was to talk to a normie about flat earth, and I started to talk about this stuff, because I used to do this, I would talk about like not just on cue, but when people brought it up. So if somebody brought up what happened in 2001, and was it September? I can't remember the date. I can't be bothered with things that happened 22 years 23 years ago, 22 years ago. But I would kind of start talking about that and like thermite and red flecks and like, not that I believe that now, but and building 7 and all these things. And you could just see the eyes glaze over sometimes people get interested in it and whatever, but a lot of times, I remember one time we were in Miami, I was there with some friends and we're walking around and these college kids were doing a survey and they asked us something about 9/11. This was in 2000 and like 10 11, something like that, and they were just asking us like, I forgot what it was, something totally normie though. And I was like, oh, 9/11. And I started talking about, it 7-Eleven being a part-time job. And these kids were like really interested in it. And I gave them some links, stuff you could find back then. It was crazy. My friends like, you just ruined their whole fucking experiment or their whole project or whatever they were doing. I'm like, good. They're gonna have a new project now. It's gonna be talking about fucking jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. Like I remember when that was, now it's like a joke to say that, like even when I was in comedy, people who were normies would say that like as a joke, making fun of Alex Jones. It was crazy. But anyway, so when I'm talking about Realm Earth to people, because they'll talk about things or whatever, and I'm like, I'm a Realm Earther, and then I describe it, I have that like plausible deniability that I might just be a crazy hippie or something like that, so it's great. Truthering was so much cooler in the mid 2000s. Oh dude, it was because you could just be like, hey, did you ever hear about the Northwoods documents or fluoride? Oh man, I've given the fluoride speech since like, I think I found out about that in like 2005 or 6. I was definitely a shill for big anti-fluoride. We'll just say that. good for me. But now I'm just like, yeah, that fluoride's great. Look at your teeth. So white. I love it. So the things I want to talk about Realm Earth, I know I'm all over the place, but that's why you guys love me. It's the ADD, the ADHD. Oh, shout out to Quentin. One of his a thing I saw today he had on Instagram, one of the memes, it was the guy's tattoo, and it looked like it said ACDC with a little lightning bolt, but it said ADHD. And it says, I'm on a highway to, wow, look, a squirrel or whatever. And that was like the tattoo. Great meme. That's really on somebody's skin. I know people that would get that. So I know that's real. It's definitely not a fake. It's a deep fake. All right, there we go. My notes. Okay, so man. The thing about Realm Earth that it's so close to simulation theory. Like it really to me is very close to the Matrix. This is maybe how I could talk about it. Like I'm like, if you take simulation theory where they're like, all right, we're inside a computer and we're jacked in and we have this experience. So everything inside, so I'll say I cut all that out, but then when they say everything inside isn't real, it's just in your head and it's made to feel real to you. That's kind of what I agree with that part of it. That's why, like in the Matrix, and I know we talked about this in the live stream with Sharon, but it's one of my favorite parts of the Matrix. And I always like gave me chills kind of when I used to watch the show before I was more woke than I am now. And I never really got it. I knew what they meant in the movie, the context. So I guess I'll just explain the scene. It's when after Neo wakes up and he's on the Nebuchadnezzar and he's like on these disheveled clothes and he's eating the slop fucking shit or whatever. And he's like bummed out. So they take him in the training programs and Morpheus takes him in there and is teaching him Kung Fu. And Morpheus is trying to explain to Neo that Neo's kind of, it's like, Neo, you're holding back. You're holding yourself back. He's like, you're still in this mind frame of it being like real life, but we're inside a computer. You could do whatever you want. You could like fly across and kick me and do like backflips and stuff. And as he's trying to explain this to him, it's at a point where Neo's on the ground and he's like breathing hard. And Morpheus looks at him and he's like, you think that's air you're breathing? It's like, we're in a fucking computer, retard. Like, that's not, but you still think that. So, if you think about what a spiritual realm is, I feel like that's the same kind of thing. But it's just that we're not somewhere, like we don't have bodies plugged in somewhere in a, like in a room, and then our mind is just in a computer. I feel like it's more when they say that we're just energy. I feel like somehow energy is consciousness, and we have this experience when we go through a certain cycle and we get in this realm where the energy splits off into like billions of different pieces, and some of the pieces become trees and some of the pieces become rocks and some of the pieces become Brandon and Hitler and Genghis Khan, who is way crazier. So don't even try to argue that one if both of them even ever lived. That's how I look at it. So for whatever reason, normally we're part of this whole, look, just say like it's a lightning bolt, right? There's one lightning bolt, but then it hits, let's say it hits a lovely crystal prism. It shatters into billions of pieces, and those pieces get projected out. And if you're close to some of those pieces, you could see the one that's a tree or a rock or whatever it is, and you could interact with it, and you have this feeling like it's physical and you're actually touching something. And I've been holding my breath since the stream began. Good job. I wish I could hold my breath and then podcast to be great. Let me read some more chat. Cody says, Brandon, have you read any oh man, I'm gonna sound silly. Plotinus, or gotten to the Neoplatonic school of philosophy, very similar to what you talk about. I know a little bit about that stuff, but I never went too deep. I got really deep into like occult symbolism and all that stuff because I saw it was like a hidden language around us. So I went really deep. Like Mark Passio has I don't know, 300 episodes, but I listened to all of them. And it was like an education, let me tell you. It was crazy. It's not like the anger stuff that he spouts all the time. And it was like a real education. Like he used to be a lot more chill. But it could just be more of an act. I don't know. I've actually reached out to him. I'm trying to get him on the Over Sharon show. How crazy with that? Mark Passio. You're all garbage. What's he call him? Trash. He's like, you're all trash. I'm gonna be like, can I do my impersonation of you, Mark? He actually has a pretty good sense of humor. I met him, and Mark Passio, he's like a rough guy, but he does have a good sense of humor. Like he's old school. I made him laugh. Like I fucking know it'd be great on the Over Sharon show. I'd be excited for that. Even if I mean, like, and it's funny because yeah, it'd be good to get him on to get like more viewers or whatever, but I just want to fucking talk to him, you know. Like Sharon and I already talk about that. We don't really care about the viewers as much. This is more for like us. I mean, obviously it's for you guys because you're so cool, but it's kind of like therapeutic to be able to express yourself in this way and get it out there and not have it bottle up inside everybody. So go express your wisdom. So getting back to these billions and trillions of pieces of energy, there's a reason I'm bringing all this up. So I believe that's how the collective consciousness works. So we're creating the realm that we see around us collectively because we all are attached. Because if we're all energy, on some level, we're attached. On some level, there's like a hand puppeting us, right? Because if you zoom down in with a microscope, I didn't say telescope. I said that last time. If you zoom in with a microscope, you're just going to see atoms and electrons and things bouncing around, right? It's just all energy. Any scientist will tell you this. So we're energy. So at some level, if we all are connected this way, we're going to be able to create this realm and have it together as a shared experience. So I think that explains this Mandela effect that everyone's always talking about, because I think parts of it could be real. Now, the mainstream ones, maybe the mainstream ones are thrown out there just like anything else that's in the mainstream that everybody knows about. There's a reason why it's out there, right? Speaking of psyops. So if people know this and have nefarious intentions in mind, you know, like the CIA, they could put these things out there, whatever, you know, we all have been down the rabbit holes. So it's possible that, oh, good night, Quentin. He's going to bed. Keep crushing. Bro, I'm going to go call it a night. All right. No, I don't blame you. I've already been going over an hour. I told myself an hour. We'll go a little longer. The community forming in their after hours chat is important as the show itself. Awesome. Which show is he talking about? I'd love to have you and any bears on my show. Sometimes schedules is always the worst part, though. Should I name my future son Brandon, Hitler, Genghis Khan? Yes, the first. Because you know, just be like, I know he's going to be a conqueror. I'm just going to call him the first. We know this. Everybody meet at the Brandon. That's right. Exactly. Oh, you're talking about the Over Sharon show. Yeah, we have a really cool little fun chat on Telegram. Hit me up if you want to be in there. Sharon knows how to do that stuff. So the Mandela thing, there might be other edits that happen, not like Field of Dreams or Berenstain Bears or whatever, but there might be these other edits that happen. And I think it could totally be explained, because if it really works like we're energy and it works off our belief, right, of everything that's created. So if a certain amount of people, maybe there's this tipping point, there's different percentages that they talk about too, like, I don't know, 66.6% or something. That's why 33.3 is like, so, you know, like their fun magic number that they jerk off to all the time. So if you can get the collective consciousness to a tipping level, things will actually change in the realm. So that would mean that, like, if the Berenstain or Field of Dreams or whatever, we'll take one of these things, was true, and somebody had a copy of like Field of Dreams, it's a bad example because I don't think that's a real one. But let's just say we're using this one, that copy would actually change too, because everything in the realm, because it's not real, man. This isn't, you think that's air you're breathing? That's just more energy that you're being tricked into thinking is a physical thing, right? Am I going too deep for you guys? Yes, over Sharon after hours, of course. Yes. I was live streaming, so I misunderstood that. I have a Mandela moment about the flag of the USSR never having a star on it. So you're saying it was just the sickle and the hammer? That kind of pings my little interest too, because when you first said that, I was like, yeah, I don't remember. So now I know it has a star on it, but I think there was a point in my life where I saw it with a star and was like, I don't remember that star being on there. And that could have even been in like the 80s. I'll die on the C3PO Silver Leg Hill. And Zeralath has a really good one for that. I forgot what it was, but this is the thing though, Woodshop, right? So we'll use that as the example. It could have been possible that that leg was gold the whole, back then. And then for whatever reason, hocus pocus, everybody's somehow they got their awareness to think it was a silver leg, and then boom, it's a silver leg now. And everything you go get and look at, it's silver. It's like the Back to the Future picture. Remember what Marty and like his sister's disappearing and then like he's disappearing. It's like that. It's like time travel. Wow. That just blew my mind. It's like leaving when they talk about like time travel things. So it kind of has that aspect of where things travel back in time. And I think what happens is not everybody's sensitized to it. So they don't, and then, okay, so maybe it's 66.6, let's say, right? And then, so 33.3% of people still remember it being gold. But then think of how many people, once it comes out that, oh, it's always been silver, how many of that 33% that always remember it being gold just be like, oh, I guess I was wrong. It was silver. And then they just, whatever, and they forget about it because they have a life. So they're not constantly worried about C3PO's leg. Just kidding. By life, I mean they're probably heavily engaged in escapism. I used to have a life. Ugh. Just kidding. I love my life. I have a wonderful woman, and it's amazing. But you guys know what I mean. I am a comedian. I'm just very convincing. I'm very deadpan. So that's what I'm talking about, the collective consciousness in things like the Mandela. And so it's like a simulation collectively in all our brains. How dare you, Woodshop the Wise? Listen, if there is a battle over the C3PO and it gets escalated to people killing each other and there's a hill, I'll meet you there. We'll be fighting them and we'll win. It'll be like the hill, and I'll bring up some Lord of the Rings. It'll be like the hill, because this will be a good transition. Like in the movie, I think it's the movie, but I haven't seen it in a while, but I've listened to the books more recently, where they're making the stand against the Black Gate and they're all like surrounded by the orcs. That's us. It was fucking gold, man. Instead of Frodo, it was gold, yo. I'll wait for that one to land. There is a delay. So the Lord of the Rings thing. I was gonna say we're kind of like, well, this is also how I believe like egregores work, right? So right before we get to Lord of the Rings, we'll talk about this. When people talk about egregores or even archons or demons or even like evil gods, some people say they think we're in a what do they call that? Like a soul trap, and there's like this entity, and he's like, fuck you, and I'm gonna make your life hell, and you can't get off the couch because it's my fault. Or whatever it is. You can't go follow your dreams and do what you want because it's my fault, and you have to get a regular job and work at Wendy's. I don't know. I don't want to pick on people who work at Wendy's. You get it. But there are these evil things, and I think what happens is they are created by us in our subconscious as a whole. And I think maybe even when they talk about people who like summon entities, like got together and did all these crazy things, maybe there's a way to do it also as just a single person or with a few people. But the way that we see it, that's more esoteric, right? Because it's like a it's more like an introverted thing, and then extroverted would be something that happens out in the collective consciousness where everybody is affected or most people are affected by it. And maybe that's why things like 2020 happened. You know, maybe there is, I mean, yes, I've seen Event 201 and I realize there's planning and stuff that goes into it, but maybe at the top, the reason these things get put into motion isn't because there's like, you know, some Rothschilds going, how are we going to do this? Maybe those things that we see happen to us, like Event 201 and Bill Gates and all this crazy stuff, and like the shots and all this stuff. Maybe those forces get sent into motion by just people, being greedy people, or just being, you know, not trying to live in accordance with the golden rule because they're super materialists. So they're trying to get to the top of the ladder. In certain people who are just very talented, they're getting to the tops of the ladder and they're pushing these buttons and they're making this stuff happen. You know, obviously there's stuff like these secret societies and stuff like that, but I think the view that I'm talking about makes more sense because I don't see the forward thinking with these groups like you would have to see. And I got a lot of this by listening to the Dune series, because if you listen to the entire Dune series, it spans like 15,000 years. And then they even talk about Earth, which is like a few thousand years before that. So some of these groups are forward thinking. And then there's this one moment, there's this part where this one character, I don't want to spoil anything, but he lives for like 3,500 years. And he has a very forward thinking plan because he's so old, right? But I think to keep something like that at the level that we're at right now, to keep that going would be just way too crazy. I think that these groups that do what they do and the things like these psyops that happen to us are more a result of just shitty people like trying to climb to the top and just trying to be the best materialist they can be. But again, there's probably always a few that are a little in the know. But I think really at the top, what it is this egregore, right, called a demiurge, but it's just created by people who are trying to get this level of materialism and to get to this level of like, I'm trying to think like of this level of control and material power that couldn't be sustained normally without all this hard work. And so as they do it, they kind of manifest it in, and it becomes this force that then goes out and makes people kind of act like drones. It's kind of like a vibration, right? So if you're on this lower vibration and people are putting out the vibration, if you have like if you have iron filings in a magnetic field and you lower the vibration, they're going to do different things. So if you're at that vibration, you're going to do those actions, and those actions are going to be like, you know, like, how can I get laid? How can I get some money? How can I, you know, like, how can I be the best? And eventually the people way at the top, for them to get the level of materialism that they want, people have to cover their faces and take experimental medical serums for it to all keep working and not fall apart. Does that make sense to you guys? Am I making sense right now? So I think that's more of what it is. And of course, I'm not going to deny anybody who's going to talk about like these families that live in like these bloodlines and stuff, but maybe when they first started, they were doing really good. But I think now these spiritual powers or whatever kind of took over. It's like at a next level up. If you just think of rungs going up, like now we're on the physical and then we go to energy next or whatever. And the law of one even talks about this, because the law of one talks about how we're all just energy going through different cycles. And in this realm, we have free will, we have the physical, and we have to, you know, if we transcend, you can go to the next one, but you can go up the good path or the bad path. So to move up, and they say it's all one entity, like, or it's all humanity as a whole, but I look at things a little differently. So if you're part of that energy that's ready to go up, you can go up the negative way, but you have to be over like 95% negative. But to go up the positive way, you only have to be, but you have to be 50% positive to go up to the next thing, right? So think about the level of evil that requires. And again, the law of one was something that was channeled, could have been a bunch of drunk guys, I don't know. But I like when I hear that, there's some things that resonate with me. It feels like it's on the vibration of truth. So I could take it out allegorically, the pieces that kind of fit in to what I jive with and the words. Because remember, the words that they're using can mean different things. So anyway, if you in this realm, to move up to the negative path, if you have to be like 95% negative, eventually it's going to lead, you're going to be this person in a room somewhere or whatever, or like in a corporation at the top or whatever it is at the top of this control. And it could be just like the Sith, like Star Wars. It could be just like one evil master with a apprentice. And from them, because they have to go so hardcore to the bad to go up that level, it just ends up with people having to cover their face and take shots and all this crazy stuff that happens. So it's just something to think about. So there's just one guy we got to take out, man. He's the Sith Lord. I've been working with my lightsaber. We're gonna get him. I got my lifesavers. Will that help me against the lightsaber? Is this a pun battle? No, then you're fucked. Don't bring lifesavers to a lightsaber fight. Because the Sith don't like puns. All right. So we talked about that. And then there's this concept of the creator. A lot of people like to worship the creator and they argue, is there a creator? Is there not a creator? All this stuff. And I like to say the stuff that I've been thinking about lately is I think that if there was a creator and you were to worship him openly every day, like devote your life to just worshiping a creator. And I don't mean, well, you'll understand what I'm saying. It's kind of like if you're just going to worship the creator all day, it would be like Frodo in Lord of the Rings worshiping Tolkien all day instead of going to destroy the ring. And I think I've said this in a recent episode, but I wanted to talk about it again. So I think if we had a creator, he wouldn't be like, worship me all day. He'd be like, dude, go do what you got to do. Do what I made you to do. Go do it. Don't worry about me. I think if there is a creator, we'll just say that, which I do believe on some level, but I'm also going to rip that idea apart too. But I think if there is a creator, he would prefer us, or of course I say he, because we know it's not a lady. Come on. Have you ever seen him try to drive? Anyway, if there is a creator, man. See, this is why I don't have to get mad in traffic anymore, because I used to get terrible road rage and just yell. I wouldn't like yell at people, but I would just be like in my car, like, what the fuck? Sometimes I would. When I was young, I used to flip people off. It was crazy. But now I just make fun of women on podcasts that can't drive. And it's a great outlet. So every time it happens, I'm like, I'm going to make fun of you later on a podcast, lady. All right. Yeah, I think if there was a creator, he would just want us to go do our thing, right? Like they say the Dharma, just be like, dude, go do the Dharma, go do your thing, man. Don't worry about me. Like I'm cool over here. As long as you're not trying to like, I don't know, do whatever you want. I'm the creator. Just, do what I put here to do. And that's why some people say they don't think there is a creator. Like, is there an outside creator separate from us? And then some people will say we are the creator, we are God, I am God. And then some people say we're just an aspect of God. And the way that I like to put it is going back again to the Frodo example. I feel like, and this is something I got from the Kabbalion, and it's like a book of all this hermetic stuff, and they talk about the all, and they say like the universe is in the mind of the all, and the universe is mental. And what I get out of that is it's kind of like Frodo. I'm like Frodo, wood shops, like, or I'm not Frodo. What am I talking about? But you guys get it. Like, I'm Gandalf. Wood shop is, Sauron. Just kidding, buddy. We love you. But we're all different characters. Someone's a tree, Quiet Sparky Bear's like he's like Tom Bombadil. And Tolkien, you could look at in that sense, would be like the god, right? You can look at it in those two senses, but you can also say all those pieces of Lord of the Ring are actually Tolkien himself. All those stories that he wrote, right? So he wrote Frodo in the point of view because he knew about trying to do what's right or whatever, for the to help everybody to save the world or whatever. It was like the quest. And then he had like he can write all this stuff about Gandalf because he had the experience with like mentoring people and trying to inspire courage and stuff like that. And then he could write about evil things too, like orcs and like Sauron and stuff, because he had that depth, because he, in his mind, he was able to create all these scenarios and go down this road. So Sauron is even Tolkien, like Morgoth, the Balrog of Morgoth and all the evil stuff like that came before. That's all Tolkien. Are you following me? So if we look about it in that point of view, we are just part of this story, right? We're part of this. You could look at it that way. We're part of this beautiful thing that's happening right now and that's unfolding in the world. That's just part of us. That's what we're just part of it. And my friend Davin, who I'm going to have back on the show, he likes to say that the universe is a story creating machine, which I really love. And he's like, we're here to just create stories. So if you think about it that way, it's like a beautiful tapestry that we're all weaving together, even the discordant parts, like even the bad parts, because Melkor, I think it's Melkor is one of the Ainur that are made in the beginning of the Silmarillion in the whole Tolkien universe. And he's one of the gods that creates everything. But before they create Middle Earth, Iluvatar, who is the ultimate high one, he creates the Ainur. And these are the guys, like some of them are gods of wind, the ocean, and Malkor is the most powerful. And it's like the Satan story. He kind of falls. But before they create Middle Earth, Iluvatar has them just basically, it's just sound. There's nothing to see. It's just all vibration and sound. And so they have this, they start playing music. And then Malkor starts adding discontent to the music. But Iluvatar still smiles. So like he realizes that the bad part is part of it. It's like the yin and the yang. And if you want to have this wonderful dance, you need to have the light with the dark and the dark with the light. So yes, we are all characters in the book of life. That's a good way to look at it. And even if I'm wrong, it's like you just have a good time and then you go to hell and burn forever. Oops. Sorry, guys. I guess I'll be next to you telling my puns. Oh, man. You call that a pitchfork? Looks more like a lobster fork. Am I right? I would be shitting on the devil in hell. It'd be like, ooh, Satan, stab me harder. This is so terrible. Anyway, so that's kind of my ideas, what I want to talk about with Tolkien and all that stuff, because there's another aspect too, is kind of like Frodo now. So Frodo's the one who saves like the whole world, right? And I have this other whole side theory that I won't get into, where I think like what really happened was the men and the elves and the dwarves and whatever got together and kicked Sauron's ass, but they kind of felt bad for the hobbits, so they just gave him this ring and be like, dude, you got to throw it in the fucking volcano, right? You got to throw it in the volcano. They just wanted to give him something to do because they felt bad. And they're like, they want to be heroes. So here, and they figured they just get lost in the woods. And they know hobbits just to like eat like 5 breakfasts and don't do shit. So they figured they would just go hang out, right? They'd be like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll just sit this one out. Here's this ring. But they actually went through and destroyed it synchronistically at the same time that the men and the elves and everybody got together and kicked Sauron's ass. So because history is written by the winners and Frodo wrote the ending of the story, of course it's going to come down to where Frodo saves the whole world and everything happens. That's my conspiracy theory about Lord of the Rings. What do you think? Anyway, so Frodo destroys the ring, right? And he's the hero. Now, what if everybody found out about that? Like even where he lived, he goes back to Hobbiton, and he goes back to the Shire, and they all find out, they start to worship him, right? And they start to praise him and they make him a god. I think that'd be like the same kind of thing. We would deify Frodo at that point, where you could see like Frodo didn't want anything to do with that. So Frodo would just want everybody, like Frodo went to save the world, but he went to save it not so they would worship him, but so they would just go do their own thing and keep going and, be better or whatever, to fight evil. So just remember that when you're worshiping your idols there, everybody. It's all that pit and the pedestal stuff. Whenever you find somebody, it could even be an idea. It doesn't even have to be a person, a diet, and you put it on the pedestal and you think it's the best thing ever and there can never be anything wrong with it. There might come a point where you find a chink in that crack of that thing you put on the pedestal or that person, and it could all come crashing down, and then you throw them in the pit. So I don't know. It's just things I've learned from being a wise old man about judging people. People sometimes they're terrible, but we're all terrible. I fucking used to sell Daewoo's, guys. Daewoo of Milford. Oh, it was great. Yeah, Sam did write it, Cody. So, I mean, possibly, I think it's quite possible that Samwise Gamgee would be the one to blame in that conspiracy theory. I think that's really all I want to talk about. I was going to talk about Dune a little bit, but I think I'll save that because I've already been going for almost an hour and a half. And if I got into Dune right now, it would be crazy. But there is good news. I don't like to spoil too much, but there's somebody that you guys have probably heard his name before. He has a show. You might know who he is. And he agreed. We were talking about Dune. He's been on the Over Sharon show. Benjamin Balderson. And I reached out to him about Dune, and he's down. He's listening to him again right now, but he read him when he was younger, but he's listening to him again right now. And he said, let's do a recording about it. So we got some Dune stuff coming. So brush up on your Dune knowledge. I'm going to stay on that one. And what else? Yeah. And like I said, guys, we all listen, we have people we like, we watch, we listen to. Sometimes those people say things and do things, and then there's these divisions and groups of friends. Well, guess what? I'm still friends with everybody, guys. Like I like Biggie and Tupac, like my friend Dion and RJ hate each other, and I'm still friends with both of them. Like after 10 years, maybe they still fucking hate each other. But well, not each other, but I'm still good friends with both of them. What are you gonna do? This is how confident I am that some of my friends aren't gonna watch my own show, which is hilarious. I get it though. Like, they used to watch my comedy stuff, but once I started talking about, like, I don't know, it's more about the self-healing thing, It's great because it bores people. That's what we say about Oversharing. People don't get offended because they just get bored. Or they love it, which is you guys. But I'd like to give a shout out to the chat, actually. And I know I said I was going to play that clip, but I guess I lied. So I'll just make it, after this, I'll put it up on my channel. And if you're watching this now sometime in the future, I'll put the link in the description of this. So if you want to go watch that, you know what? This is what I'll do. While I'm talking, I'll make the clip live, and then I'll put the link in the chat, and you guys can watch it. Let's Woodshop, are you still here? If you're still here, I'll play it. I can't see yet, but say it if you're still here. I'm doing some editing. I mean, I'm doing some I'm so used to doing it on my phone. I don't remember how to do it on a computer anymore. Here it is. Oh, it is public. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. Maybe Sharon made it public. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Awesome. Let me check again. I'll make sure. Oh, no, it says it's unlisted. What? What are you talking about? Maybe I was on the wrong one. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. I know what I'm doing, guys. Listen, I've had a YouTube channel since like 2014. Set to public. Save. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go. I'll get the link and I'll put it right in there. And if Woodshop is still here, if he has responded, I will play it for you guys, actually. How do I? Oh, it's going to play for a second because I can't. There we go. And I made it 11 minutes and 11 seconds long. I'm so funny like that. He's here. All right, I'll just play it then. All right, everybody. I am going to say goodnight, and I'm going to play this, and then that's going to be my getting out of here. So thank you guys so much for hanging out in the chat. So I'll be in the chat right now during this preview. And if you say something funny enough, maybe I will stop it and talk. You could get more of me, and you can get more of the Oversharing Show at morelawsmoreproblems.com. Click on the Oversharing tab, but I also have blogs that I've been doing for like 10 years, memes, videos, all kinds of stuff. So go check that out. And what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, check out the Oversharing Show every Thursday night, 8:33 p.m. I was just thinking about this. Yes, we do we either premiere or do a live stream every Thursday. So come check us out and hang out in the chat. But I said this was an update? I guess I gave an update on my life. I can give a quick update now. Look forward to more Brandon Bonanza shows I plan on recording. Oh, I did talk about some of the things, I guess. I don't know. I just didn't know what to call it. Sorry if you made it this far. There's your update. All right, so I'm going to play this preview. Share sound. Sound shared. Here we go. See you guys later.
It's like a spell. So you go through life with all of this trauma, right? And then you see it oftentimes, people in their 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever. It used to be a midlife crisis, right? It used to be someone turns 50, 60 years old and they snap and they go out and they buy a car or they buy something, right?
Corvette.
Yeah, that's a classic example. And it's like everybody's made fun of that. But it's actually very sad because those people have attempted to put on a mask and be somebody that they're not for 50 or 60 years. And then they hit a point where they look at themselves in the mirror and it's like their inner child is seeing without any blinders in that moment how old they are. And that realization hits that I don't have very much longer left in this life. And I just wasted my entire life trying to appease everybody else. I wasn't who I actually was. And I'm sure that there's a lot that goes on in people's heads. And then they snap and they go, no, I wanted a Corvette when I was 8 years old. I'm going to go buy a Corvette. You know, like that was my dream. And I gave up on that dream. So there's a lot packed into there. But as far as like trauma and trying to heal those things go, the spell that I'm talking about is that there's something wrong with you. I think that that's a very big spell. And I think that it is conveniently used because we're in a state of not understanding what healing actually is. So when somebody tells you that you're not yourself, right? Like you're not being yourself or you're not who you actually are. I think it can be used for manipulative purposes first off, right? Because oftentimes you're not who you are is actually you're not who I want you to be, which is unfortunate. But finding out like when people tell you like there's something wrong with you, or when you think that there's something wrong with you, I would make the argument that there's actually nothing wrong with you. And the way that I've been thinking about it is if you're damaged as a child, right? Damaged in parentheses there or quotations. You're not actually damaged. All that's happening is you're putting up a wall. You know, like I don't think that anybody can really damage your soul like that. I think you're always who you actually are. But we end up putting walls up and eventually it gets to a point where it's like you're a child in a cave that you have walled off, like you've rolled stones in between every exit so that nobody can get in. But inside of that cave, there's still that child. That child's perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong with that child. There's just all these defenses in place now so that other people can't hurt them. So I think that when you try to find out what's wrong with you, it is a spell. It's like a time wasting path that I think is done by design, and it leads down the same roads that like conspiracy theory, truther type stuff leads down. Like there's some truth to be learned, but you see people who spend 40, 50 years trying to figure out the exact cocktail of what's in a chemtrail, and it's like, how's that serving your soul? Like what purpose is that giving you in life? It seems like wasted time to me. But it when you do that, it also puts an expectation on us to find something that doesn't exist. So if somebody tells you that there's something wrong with you, right, then you're going to freak out. That's your initial reaction, is to go, oh no, there's something wrong with me. Now I have to find out what's wrong with me so that I can fix it. But if there's nothing wrong with you in the first place, then you're going to be launched down a path of wasting your life, living in anxiety, living in fear. And it causes like a tear in the mind, like who am I? Because if society is telling me that this isn't how I should be, and people that I know are telling me that this isn't how I should be, then who actually am I? And I think that's what a lot of people are dealing with today. I think that everybody knows who they are. I think that there's no finding yourself that really needs to be done. I think it's more about letting those defenses down, letting those walls down, and just allowing yourself to be who you are. That actually needs to take place. So I'll stop there and let you guys weigh in.
Yeah, and also not being afraid of what other people think about you is a huge part of that, I think, as well, because then you could just because I know from my own experience, I used to be a lot more sarcastic and more like I mean, I was always like a nice guy, but I could also be an asshole. But as I started to get more into spirituality, I'll say, and walk this path, now I'm just more like and I said this the other day on my show, I'm just like a comedian all the time. I'm always just trying to lighten situation and raise the vibration in the area, and just being myself. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I was thinking about some things you said earlier. You were talking about like when you're a child and you just have this boundless optimism, and this just, you just go. You're like a little, like, what is it, Energizer bunny, And I was thinking about when I was learning to snowboard some years ago, like a long time ago. And I was seeing the little kids around me. Like, I would come down a hill and I'd fall and I'd be like, oh, and I'd be like, okay, I need some time to get up. And I'd see these little like kids that are like 2 feet tall or 1 feet tall or whatever. And they just like fall over and then they'd get right back up. And I'm like, why can't I be like that?
You could probably learn more from learning how to snowboard as a little child than you could in a school. You just get to use all your energy, and you learn to do something and get confidence in yourself.
I'll pop in real quick because,
Yeah.
excuse me, that's what I was going to say. Is that I think is why we have this tear in who we are, is because we're from children taught that who we actually are is not who we should be. And you see that a lot in school, right? Like, you shouldn't be wanting to talk about this subject right now because we're doing math right now. And it's like, okay, well then
kids' minds are all over the place. It's like,
yeah, and it's like, oh, well, there's something wrong with you because you're 6 years old and you can't sit still for 8 hours in a chair.
That's ridiculous.
No, like, and that happens in school, that happens at home. You see a lot of parents who are like stressed out from work, or whatever's going on in their life.
Mm-hmm.
and they take it out on their children, right?
Mhm.
Child wants to go outside and play.
And yell and scream and
Yeah.
play and be loud and
And like
obnoxious
a
and
parent will tell them no. And oftentimes it's done in anger. So then the child subconsciously goes, there's something wrong with me then because I wanted to go outside and play, but it's obviously not time to go outside and play. So why am I wanting to go outside and play? And when you do this for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and you just constantly have everybody telling you that you're not who you actually are or who you're supposed to be, then that's, I think, what causes that tear in the mind of being like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
But you do know who you are. You're just scared of being who you are because you're scared of somebody else telling you that you're wrong or that there's something wrong with you, probably because it was done to you as a child and you've bottled it up. But the reality is it doesn't matter who the fuck you are. There's going to be people out there telling you that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And people really need to understand that, like, you're never going to please everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my current because this whole topic is very relevant even in my life right now, because my current trigger is being questioned about like what I'm doing with my life and my worldview and how I see the world. And I feel it manifest from like a child, like from parents, that expect you to be a certain way, go to church, rigid, this, that, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that, or else you're not going to be saved, XYZ, right? And so me coming out of like a culty religion has caused me to be very much myself. And I've brought down, I think, some of the walls, but I'm in the stage of like, I still get triggered and I still start to yell and raise my voice when I'm questioned. And so that's what I'm working on. Is like, I need to stop being triggered and just find some other way to like deal with it. I don't know. That's where I'm at.